Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name's Anna and I'm a random stranger on the internet talking to you about beauty. Alright, so it is time for my most popular and probably my favorite series on my channel, and that is my Pan That Eyeshadow Challenge. If this is your first time watching this video, I'll link up above or below, somewhere. I will link my playlist for this. So basically, I've got a large eyeshadow collection. Not embarrassed by that, like it's a hobby and a passion of mine. But what I was struggling with was the fact that my collection did not reflect the amount of love that I had for it. I felt like I didn't have good usage of my collection, and that bothered me because if you have something you love, you want to use it. When I started this project, I had less than 1% pan. I'm not currently sure what my pan percentage is. I haven't looked in a while. Kind of waiting till maybe the 6-month mark to reevaluate where I am. But yeah, so my goal is to randomly generate. I do 5 shadows at a time, randomly generate those shadows, and then I use them either until I hit pan or until I've used them 60 times, whichever one comes first. At the 60 use mark, if I haven't hit pan yet, I'm like, you know what, this shade shows use, we're rolling it out and we're getting something else back in because I just don't want to get stagnant on one shade. All right, so you guys ready to see how this month went? Honestly, I have to say that this month I didn't have as much pan as I expected to have, but it was probably my favorite month that I've had so far. I didn't hit pan as much because I was so loving almost every shade, and I was just like using them and rotating between all of them, and I just loved the shadows I was using this month. Such a good month for me. But let's get into it. All right, the first one is from the ABH Sultry palette. This is the shade Teak. I used it 7 times this month. I thought for sure I was gonna hit pan, which is a sneak preview for you guys, but there it is right there. Can you see that? There is a massive dip going on. Massive dip. And I just thought for sure I would have hit pan on it. But altogether, I've only used this shade 15 times. Altogether. Because this will be rolling it into its 3rd month, so. But surely I will hit pan on it next month. It's a beautiful bronzy color. Like I said, I used it, I felt like I was using it a lot, but I guess 7 times isn't huge. But it's a shade that really complements my eyes, I feel. So I certainly didn't mind using it, and I don't mind rolling it over for 1 more month. But I definitely want to hit pan on it in this 3rd month. All right, the next one is from the Naked 2, and can you hear that? Like, I've had all the shadows are like popping out of this palette. It's a bit disconcerting. So I'm gonna have to show this to you carefully, but the shade was Chopper. It's that shade right there. And as you can see, I did hit pan in that shade, and I used it 5 times before I hit pan, which meant it took me in this challenge 19 times to hit pan on that shade. Now, it was probably my most used shade in this palette beforehand, but yeah, 19 times before I hit it, and I hit that at the end of August. So we will roll that one out and we will roll a new one into its place. The next one is the Dubious Place palette, Afrique. When I rolled this shade in, I was like, oh, what am I gonna do? Because the shade I rolled in is Dakar, and it is a bright orange, and I was so nervous. Turns out I love orange eyeshadow. Like, can you see it? I'm wearing it today. I've been wearing it a lot. I wore it 12 times this month. 12 times this month I wore orange because I just have freaking fallen in love with orange eyeshadows. It feels awesome. Just that shade right there. And if you're looking for a dip, maybe you can see a hair of a dip. I think there's like a shadow of a dip almost. But yeah, like I said, I used it 12 times, and There's just the slightest of dips in this shadow. I know from watching other panners that these shades are notoriously difficult to use. So I think this is realistically going to be one of those that I use 60 times and don't hit pan on and I have to roll it out. But we're 12 uses in and I am loving this shadow. So I don't mind that it's staying in for a little while longer. All right. The next one is from ABH, the Modern Renaissance palette, and it is the shade Primavera. I did roll this in last month, yeah. So this has only been in the project for one month. The same thing with that Afrique Dubious Place palette. I pulled that in. It was the shade Primavera. And as you can see, I actually have a pretty good little pan down there. I used this shade 17 times to hit pan. Now I feel like these shimmer shades are easier to hit pan on than your mattes because you can use them in a lot of different ways, and two, I feel like you have to work a little bit harder to build up the color because they're a shimmer, right? And one of the things I actually love doing was taking this shade and layering it over this one. I also did a lot of like nude eye colors with this in the center of the lid. I really enjoyed this shade, and actually this was my first time pulling out this palette. It's relatively new to my collection, and when I got it as part of a set, and I actually thought this would be the one I didn't like the most, and I ended up loving this palette. I think because I found that I loved this orange shade, and so I was reaching into here a ton for other shades to complement that orange shade. So this burnt orange I used a ton. This tempera shade I used a lot. Obviously Primavera. Real Gar, oh my god, this is a fabulous shade. I dipped into it quite a bit. So yeah, I really enjoyed spending time with this palette. This may become one of my favorite fall palettes. But as for now, we will be rolling it out because I did hit pan on that shade. All right, and the last one, this is the only one that I was like, And it's not because I don't love the palette, it's just because the shade was one very similar to a shade I had in my previous months. And it was, this is the Too Faced Peach palette, and it was the shade Peach Pit. And it is this like brownie purple color right here. You can see a little bit of wear on the shade. It looks more like wear than it does a dip. But I only used it 7 times. So it was my, well, I guess I used it the same amount of time that I used teak. That makes sense. But yeah, so we still have a long way to go with this shade. But we did roll out 2 palettes and we will be keeping the 3. All right, let me get my app up and then we will generate our new shade. All right, I've got my Pretty Random app up. Minimum of 1, max is 455. First number is 263, and I have to scribble these down because I in the past have forgotten what shade I pulled. All right, and then our second one is 395. Okay, let me go pull those palettes and we will do our reveal together. Okay, so number 395 comes from my ABH Prism palette, and it is the shade Osiris. Oh guys, again, this is another palette I don't think I've even swatched this one. That's right, it's a deep purple shade. I'm going to just spend my life surrounded by deep purple shades that I'm just like, ugh. All right, let me swatch this for you. I know I shouldn't complain, but yep. At least this is more of a true purple. That does actually look more like a true purple than some of the others. We're not gonna use it more than 60 times, right? So just chug away at it. The next one, 263, this actually came from my Tartelette Toasted palette, and I've actually had this one in the challenge before. I actually panned the shade Candle, or hit pan on the shade Candle. This one is the shade Smore, so we actually lucked out. It is a really beautiful cream, like, setting shade. You can see right there. That's the kind of shade you can use to set your lid. So those are great for me. I already do that, so that'll help offset that one. And then I will show you, since these are the two new ones, I'll show you what else we've got going on. We have got the shade Teak from ABH, the shade Dakar from Afrique, and then of course our mandatory Peach Pit shade. So this is what we're working with. I will say at least this is very different looking than this. I was afraid they would be very similar, but they're really not at all. All right, so that is what we will be working with for the next month. Pretty nervous about these. I think my best bet is going to be try to hit pan on these two shades, but we will just chug away and see what we can do. Thanks so much for hanging out with me, guys. Go into the world, be fabulous, be you. Bye.